back to the Irish Mag Show. It is episode 107. 107, lads. There's a Christmas present in itself. We are recording our first episode post-Christmas, so there's a mix of hangover / Newcastle United blues, combined with probably still a little bit of alcohol flowing in all our respective bloodstreams. Mainly Alan after being on holidays before Christmas as well. And we're in okay spirits. We're talking about what should we talk about on this week's episode, and we've decided we don't particularly want to talk too much about football on the pitch, particularly recent games. I myself am only not long back from Old Trafford, and I can tell you that was a wonderful experience, not only watching what unfolded, but having to watch it in a section of Manchester United fans. But we're not going to dwell on that, are we, lads? We're going to look ahead to January and speculate as to whether or not we think Newcastle United will make moves in this transfer window. Traditionally not a big mover, I would say, in the January window. I mean, in the last few seasons, we've not been big movers in any windows, bar the most recent one. But it will be interesting to see, as a club, do the hierarchy think that Eddie Howe has all the tools he needs to get the job done? Is Eddie Howe obviously the right man? We could maybe touch on that because there's a lot of that going around. But more importantly, do we feel there are roles to fill in January? Are there opportunities? And will there be one or two exits as well? Because that may also cause some question marks on our squad management with a big second half of the season to come. But firstly, lads, Alan Williamson, how was your Christmas?
That was great. Can't complain. Santa Claus was real nice to me.
I'm just looking over your right shoulder here because it looks like there's a new addition there that Santi may have somehow squeezed down the chimney in the form of a giant framed Alan Shearer kit from 1996?
1995, 96, yes, it is.
95, 96.
Signed by the man himself, and yes, Santa Claus brought me that, and I'm very, very happy. So it's going to go up on the wall somewhere, but I've an awful lot of shit on that wall behind me, so I'll just make some room for it.
Busy wall.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of crap.
Wall.
Yeah.
Chris Show, he's literally smiling like a kid at Christmas because I can imagine his reaction when he pulled that out of a giant stocking to see his Alan Shearer framed kit. If ever there was an Alan Williamson Christmas present, it's that. So, Santa and the elves that were involved in getting that for Alan have done well this Christmas.
They have indeed.
And Alan, talk us through quickly. You were on holidays and you got to watch the Sunderland game from Lanzarote in a bar somewhere.
Wasn't great, but weirdly enough, I was sitting in a bar, 6 Newcastle fans, and one of the lads turned around to me and goes, "Do you know the Irish Mags?" And I went, "Yeah, why?" And he pulls out
I am the Irish Mag.
Yeah, I am the Irish Mag. Pulled out a picture of me and Emma, and he was at one of the meetups when he was over in Dublin a couple of months ago. So I was like, that's fucking deadly.
Random.
Yeah, so I was like, that's mad, that is. So yeah, so shout out to anyone that was with me in Lanzarote when we were watching it in the Viking Head or something like that. Poor match, but okay, no, I was upside down drunk. It was great.
Any Mackhams in there?
No, there was 6 Newcastle fans and about 40 Man City fans, but they had the Newcastle match on for us, so we were delighted.
Delighted with life. Nice. Chris Show, before we hit the big record button, you confessed that you had very little to drink on Christmas Day. So is it a thing that you drink more on the other 364 days of the year? And then you have to pay for the Christmas?
No, it's not that. It's just that I just kind of had post Leverkusen, and the fact that our form has dipped. My drinking ability has dipped with our form, and the last couple of games, specifically, thank you for that. Sunderland and Man Red have really hit the soul hard. It's chipped away at me a little bit, and I find myself. And I'm not one for doing this, but I find myself getting rather furious when I think about Newcastle. If I've had a few ales, turn into an old man shouting off the balcony here, complaining about everything. I'm like, okay, do you know what? I need to just chill out and have some like peppermint tea or something and just give it a rest for a second. As well as that, we know there's a big party coming up soon for us. So it's like, right, let's just stave off it a little bit. Because honestly, when I start thinking about Newcastle, and I know we're not going to talk about it, but the last couple of games have been so dreadful, like furiously so dreadful. I just, oh my God. I don't know how many, like Al, I know you're always trying to put a kind of somewhat of a spin on it in a sense to kind of keep us going. But my God, I mean, honestly, I think I would have just fallen into a hole the the last couple of games, drinking and watching them. I thought,
we were septic against Sunderland. We were absolutely dreadful in the first half against Man United. Very, 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 very little. But if we had got one against Man United, we would have got 4.
Yeah,
but we're just not looking any way dangerous in front of goal. I think it may be time for Jan Wissett to start, because Big Nick, although he's been brilliant for us, he drops too deep. It's getting to be a little bit. He's kind of turning into the Evan Ferguson for Ireland at the start, when he was never in the box, and he used to drive me mad. You're a big 6'7" lump. Be in and around the penalty spot when these balls are getting crossed in, so you can just throw your head at them. He doesn't seem to be doing that.
We have the most Did we not have the most crosses of any Premier League team?
The third most crosses or something mental like that. But
check out my snood.
Oh, very nice, very nice, very nice.
Listeners, if you're not watching on YouTube, Krisho is sporting a Newcastle Brown Ale black and white snood. He's trying to be hip with the kids, clearly, because I bought my 2 nephews a snood who are 12 and 9 respectively. Krisho is currently trying to put it on live on the camera, and it's going very well. His hat's covering his eyes, and now he's back with us.
Diego Forlan trying to put the jersey on all those years ago.
No, I love it. My future father-in-law bought me, I don't know, very, very, very many Newcastle things: bags, wallets, cards, flags, jerseys, all kinds of mad
He must
stuff.
watch the podcast and be thinking, God, that Krisho lad needs to cheer up. He's always complaining. Let's get him some toys.
Geordie and proud. I was like, well, hang on a second. I am a Geordie, but I'm kind of an adapted one. But there's so much stuff. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. So the whole place will hopefully be adorned very soon, but this is a particular highlight, I have to say. I'm very pleased.
Cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
I actually got a really cool book as well in my Christmas stocking. It's downstairs. I'm looking at it now down through the little window. So I should have brought it up, but I'll bring it up next week. It's like it's basically printout or cutouts of newspapers for the last like 120 years about Newcastle United, just kind of following big things, moments that have happened all throughout history. It's actually really cool. It has me written all over it, let's say.
Oh yes.
So that's class. I'll bring it on the pod next week. We'll have a look at it, because I've been kind of browsing through it while I've eaten my cornflakes in the mornings, and occasionally having a pint of depression after Newcastle games. But we're not talking about that. We're going to park that negativity. We got it out of our system, Krisho. You've got your snood on now. You're happy with your Christmas presents.
Happy now, yeah.
And I think we need to just have a little chat about, look, there's a massive run of games coming up. We've got Burnley. We've got Leeds. I think Wolves are in there as well. And one other side who I can't remember, over the next 4 to 5 games. This is a huge run coming up, because kind of following that, we're going to go back to Champions League matters. And then there's a little run of games that includes Man City in the Cup. I think it includes Liverpool in the league. I think it includes PSG in the Champions League, all in the space of a few weeks. So that's kind of going to be kicking off around the 3rd week in January, let's say, 3rd to 4th week in January. With that in mind, and looking at where we are in the league at the moment, even though we are only 5 or 6 points off Chelsea in 5th, we're currently 14th, lads. It is not going according to plan. And I think a lot of the focus now, as much as there's a lot of focus on Eddie Howe and his job security and job performance and everything that's happening on and off the pitch, it's always interesting, particularly in the world of PSR, especially with Newcastle United. We sold a player for the British transfer record, 125 million. If PSR isn't an issue, looking at injuries, looking at performances of individual players, I think it's the right time to question, are Newcastle United actually going to be busy this January? And it's quite possible they might just be, because there are rumors starting to heat up. And with that, we're going to talk about some of the rumored transfers that are incoming. And some of these players are known to us, and they may be known to you, some of them not so much. So we've been doing a little bit of research, give our opinions on 3 or 4 of the main rumors that are circulating, chat about some of the roles that Eddie Howe might be tempted to try and target in the transfer market, and as well speculate, do we think any players may leave Newcastle United in this January transfer window? Right, let's kick it off. Alan Williamson. There's a few players on our list, and I think it's a good starting point and an interesting one as well. On the paper, I would say midfield is where we are arguably most stacked. On any given day when everyone's fit, we have basically 6 midfielders to choose from. So arguably first choice midfield 3 and a backup midfield 3 between Bruno, Tonali, Miley, Joe Linton, Ramsey and Willock. However, we seem to still be linked with some midfield options, and one that keeps popping up is a young chap. He's Dutch. Name interesting. His name is Kees Smit. Kees Smit. He is Dutch, playing for AZ Alkmaar, who are quite well known for producing some top talent in the Netherlands. And just for, I suppose, the listeners' benefit, he is a centre midfielder. I have a little excerpt from Scouted Football, which is a great resource to learn about young players. And there's a paragraph here that says he's a great tempo player because he moves constantly. He isn't a midfielder that holds position waiting for the ball to reach him. He drops, slides, and bursts towards it in every phase of play. He rolls underneath, pops up between lines, slips to the outside, breaks ahead of play, sometimes all in the same sequence. And his movement is facilitated by constant scanning, swiveling, reading the space around him. So what I like about this is positionally, as I said, it feels like we are stacked. So the question is, what would this guy bring that's different? We have a lot of runners. We have a lot of athletes. We have players who like to be behind the ball, the likes of Bruno and Tonali. We don't have as many that want to receive the ball or burst into those spaces. Could you argue Ramsey? I feel like Ramsey almost wants to be behind the ball as much as well, which is kind of like clashing with what we have. But with somebody like Keith Smith, again, he's not really an advanced midfielder, but I think there's a lot more spatial awareness and a lot more looking for opportunities in this profile. But Alan, do you know much about Keys Smith? Because this has probably been on about 2 months.
Yeah, it's been on a little bit. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. He's the definition of a box-to-box midfielder. He will come in and sit as a 6, and then he'll burst forward and try beat a 10. He is an all-round midfielder, and he looks like a serious athlete. Look, don't get me wrong, YouTube can make everyone look great, but this kid, let's
doesn't make us look great. But sorry, it doesn't make us look great. But I know, besides the point.
Very true. But yeah, no, seriously though, he looks like he's going to be a real talent. And if you look at the clubs that he's actually linked to, you're not having him linked to Fulhams and Leeds, no offense and all that jazz. He's linked to Juventus, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Newcastle,
Real Madrid today. When I was looking them up online, there was some articles about Real Madrid
absolutely today. Massive clubs. And if we could pull this off, it would be a little bit of a coup. But as you said, we're stacked in the midfield. If we bring someone in, somebody has to go. And I think two have to go.
Joe Willock, everybody.
I'd say Joe Willock, yes, and Joe Linton. The two of them will go. Joe Linton hasn't played more than half a season in the last 2 years. And yes, fantastic footballer. Yes, does everything for us. Not available enough. What's the point in having a great player for half a season isn't worth as much as a good player for the whole season. And Keith Smith will give you. He's young. He's full of fire. He will do everything to try push himself forward. I think it's time we start taking off the nostalgia glasses and say, right, Joe Linton was great for us, but it's time to move and evolve as a team. We don't need someone going around just being in the people's way. We need someone who's a little bit more creative. We've had problems breaking down low blocks for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
We still have problems breaking down low blocks. Joe Linton isn't the man for breaking down a low block. Keith Smith might not be the man, but he will allow Sandro and Bruno to push forward a little bit more and become those creative players that we want. And I would like to see our midfield develop a little bit. We talk all season about having the best midfield in the league. Have we seen the best midfield in the league at all this season?
Absolutely not.
I don't think we've won one game in the midfield. I think we've been kind of stagnant in it. And yeah, something needs to go. And I wouldn't mind seeing this guy come in. He looks like a real player.
For sure, it's a good segue as well. We will talk about outs, but seeing as we're on the midfield, we mentioned Willock and Joe Linton. Do you think realistically we could see one or both of them actually go, and specifically in January, whatever about next summer?
It's Joe Willock always. Joe Willock. I'm always pushing this Bambi, ice skating around the place, offers nothing, smiling at everybody, dancing into videos. He needs to get gone a year ago. So he doesn't offer us anything whatsoever. He's not even that much of a good athlete, for God's sake. So I can't see who would buy him, but how he's going to be. Maybe Crystal Palace will give us 10 million or something. Maybe the Joe Linton thing has hurt. I'm glad I haven't drank the last couple of days. The Joe Linton thing's hurt because it's on the back of my jersey. But you are right; he doesn't really offer anything going forward if we're going to evolve this football team and get more out of our midfield. Because to be honest with you, yes, we're missing a bit up front with Isak gone. and we're trying to just work it out how best to play the front three. But the midfield have let us down. Something's gone wrong there. They're just going sideways. There's not much happening apart from Bruno once in a while pulling up his socks and driving the whole team forward. So we definitely need more creative midfielders, more creativity in midfield. And if that comes at the cost, Paul, of Willock, Jolinton, some old nostalgic players that have offered us good service. Now, do I see Newcastle doing that or Eddie Howe sanctioning that? I don't, because him and Jolinton are jacuzzi buddies. So I can't see that. Maybe next year, not. Maybe in the summer to Saudi Arabia or something, possibly the Saudi League. Which brings me on to then throwing in just in this conversation, Ruben Neves coming in, which I think that, before he went to Saudi, we would have had a little sniff at him to come in with us. I'm just kind of like you would ask me, Paul, about players, Gibbs White. We need someone like Ruben Neves, Gibbs White. We need some kind of creativity. We need some driving force, some ball carriers. God, if only we could recreate Paul Gascoigne. So something similar to him. We need something like that because we just don't have it in the midfield. There's not enough penetration. There's not enough cover. And like Al said, we've lost most of our matches in midfield for the last, half a year, maybe 7-8 months, maybe.
Since we won the cup. Since we won the cup, we haven't been great.
Yeah. So look at go for Dutch Pedri. And if it means the cost of Jolinton and Joe Willock, then it needs. Look at it. I think they're a fairly rootless bunch. Like I've said it many times before, they brought in this slick Rick from Real Madrid, this new CEO
Hopkins.
He's made a load of changes, a raft of changes. I didn't really like Eddie Howe's 99.9% not going to be here when the stadium and training ground is going to be done. Now maybe
that's true. That's 10 years down the line. Like he in his head, like he's gone. No football manager gets 15 years at a club anymore. So it's not the maddest thing for someone to say. But the other thing I can say is Eddie 100% in control of the transfers anymore? If by the sounds of things, he's not. Ross Wilson has taken a serious control of this, and we're not going down the Premier League route. We're linked to nobody from the Premier League, which is fantastic because seemingly Wilson is gone. No, too much reliance on the Premier League. We're going elsewhere, and we're going to build these players to fit the club and not have reliance on buying Premier League players. You buy a right back in the Premier League, it's 50 million. If you buy that same player from France, it's 20 million. It's about time.
It makes business sense, right? Yeah, it makes business sense.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we've said it a million times before. Other clubs are doing this, right? Palace probably have one of the best right backs in the league this season in Munoz. Anyone know where he came from? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think he's 27, 28, but like they're identifying opportunities. Same with Bournemouth, bringing in your man Trufair to replace Kerkez. There are players out there. There is value out there, and it is an interesting conversation. That we should probably dive into even more detail, like who's calling the shots, because looking at what we're talking about there, about the types of midfielder we have, sticking with the midfield, a lot of runners, a lot of athletes, a lot of aggression and all that, but a lack of creativity and penetration, for sure, the word you used, and that kind of killer instinct when it comes to creating goals. It feels like if Eddie Howe is fully in charge, and he was told, what midfielder do you want? He'd probably say Conor Gallagher. Who's a fine midfielder, but probably brings very much the same of what we have, which is athleticism, energy, aggression, up and down. But does he have that ball, that kind of vision, that creativity, that passing, that killer pass in him?
I think he does. I think he has. When he played for Palace, he did really well, didn't he? He scored some good goals.
He did really well.
Lampard-esque. Very Lampard-esque.
The same way that Joe Willock was for us back in that season.
Exactly. Like you have to remember,
you know what I mean?
There's levels. Do you honestly want Conor Gallagher to be our next signing? Or do you want someone who's going... Don't get me wrong, Conor Gallagher, great footballer. But if we're talking how we want to talk about being the number one, as we were told, Sarah said we were going to be number one, Conor Gallagher isn't the player to bring either.
My question then is, does he change things? I'm like, Conor Gallagher is perfectly good enough to play for Newcastle.
Yeah.
But he doesn't change a whole lot. So if we lost Joe Linton and Joe Willock in the morning, I'd be okay. Conor Gallagher, fine. He comes in and he starts. He's able to just hit the ground running and he adds a lot. But does he add a differential to the midfield that we have? And that's where I'm questioning it, especially when we're stacked with those types of players. And to go back on Keith Smith, then, okay, he's not like, I think he's 19, But in the Dutch league this season, 15 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. But I think it's not necessarily his output that's being monitored. You know, we just mentioned Real Madrid and Juventus and all these teams. You know, it's watching what he does on the field, what he brings, how he brings other players into the game. And just looking at FBref stats here, like he's in the top percentiles for like shot creating actions and assisted goals and things like progressive passes, progressive carries. A very much an all-rounder. I mean, sounds a little bit like a certain Elliot Anderson, but let's not go there because that is just it's still too soon. But yeah, I think it's nice to think that if it's Ross Wilson or whoever is driving us to look at some other markets for other players, and this guy's been linked with us for quite a while. It sounds like it could be a bit of a coup. There is an element of risk, but we need to change things because what we're doing currently isn't working. So I'd be all for this one in Keys Smith. We'll drop links to some of these websites that I'm looking at, folks, as well in the description. Right. So we talked a bit about midfield there, particularly the ins and the outs. By the way, just on Joe Willock, Alan, I wanted to ask you. You know, Willock for a little while there, kind of October, November, suddenly was kind of in the pecking order ahead of the likes of Ramsey.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you think that was a shop window exercise as much as anything?
What that was. Absolutely what that was. Look at what this guy can do, and he's getting into the Newcastle side. Sell the fucker. That's exactly what that was.
Interesting. There's always been rumours with Palace and Fulham. He is a Londoner, so maybe there's a world where he goes back there. It'd be interesting to see if anyone's willing to take a punt.
Fucking Millwall, if he keeps playing the way he does play. He's fucking septic this season.
He's not the only one.
No, he's not.
No disrespect to the Millwall fans out there, because we know you.
Hell no. Hell no. No.
Right.
Whoa.
Let's move on. So there's a signing that has a rumor that has stood out to me recently. He is a player currently playing for Bayern Munich. Now, as soon as I say this name, or as soon as I say that club, people might think, who the hell are we going to be able to sign from Bayern Munich? But a player that they do have on the books is someone that I've known for a while from watching football and from Football Manager as well. Of course, Alan will nod and smile, as will Krisho. But there's a player by the name of Sacha Boey, who currently plays for Bayern Munich, joined from Galatasaray it was a January signing this time last year, let's say, when he joined Bayern for, I think it was about 30 million euros. Quite highly rated, I would say. And the interesting thing about this player is he is mainly a right back, but has played a lot at left back for Bayern and for other clubs as well. Very versatile, almost utility-esque. Likes to get up and down, the byline. And thinking about where we are now with our fullback situation, and we'll talk about the potential of an outgoing fullback as well. But Alan, this player sounds like something we could need, which is he can play on the right, he can play on the left. He's fairly well proven, has played at quite a high level. Isn't getting, he's not first choice for Bayern, I would say. I think he's played about 8 or 9 games this season, so maybe half of their games. But potentially this could be in range and suit what we need right now going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, he joined Bayern last January for 30 million euros. I think they want 35 million euros to let him go. He can play left and right back. We have been crying out for someone who can do both of them jobs. It would mean that I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say something mad here. If Sacha Boey comes in, Kieran Trippier goes out, because he just drops Trippier down a spot in the pecking order. But it's also a player we can then cash in on. We get 6 or 7 million quid. Trippier goes to Saudi Arabia, 2 seasons out there, gets his big bag of cash, and he's happy and comes back to us as a coach. Yeah, I can honestly, I can see this one happening. I don't know whether it'll be a January one now. It's a little bit of an odd one. If we have to overpay what they paid for him last year, it'll be a little bit disappointing because he was attainable last year. But you don't get a move to Bayern Munich, and you don't play for Bayern Munich unless you're a very, very good player. I'm not going to lie, I haven't really watched much of him because there's not much of him to watch. Yeah. But from what I have seen, he looks a good player. I won't say frimpong, but he has that kind of build to him where he just bombs up and down the line. He looks like a good player. So I wouldn't be opposed to this. And it gives you cover at left and right back. And love Dan Burn, but if I ever see him playing left back for us again, packing it in, it just can't happen. We need someone who can cover left back. And if he can do both, it's it's worth 20 million on its own. So that's the way I look at it. You're paying 15 million from playing on the left, 15 million from playing on the right. So it's a no-brainer in my eyes.
Yeah, he's 25 years old, Cruchot. He's French, hasn't played for France, played under 21 for France, I believe, and under 20 and 18 and so on. The only time I've properly seen him play was actually in the Club World Cup, because I was keeping an eye on that when there was nothing else to do during the summer football-wise. He did actually score for Bayern in that. I think he got a couple of assists as well. So like that, I think he's a player that is on the fringe of that squad. And if he's kind of told, you are a fringe player, you are a rotation, you are backup, at 25, he may want more from his career, obviously, and is in a prime age to do that. And to Alan's point, at that price range for something that would be so vital for us, because we've seen how good we can be when Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento are on the pitch, and we just haven't seen enough of it. And the second we kind of fall to the backups, no disrespect to Trippier in terms of age and athleticism, and also Dan Burn out of position, but to have someone in there that can cover both like quite easily, and has done it for Bayern. Do you know what I mean? Like, granted, German league, etc., but has done it for one of the best teams in Europe. I would have no doubts or hesitations or complaints if we were spending 25, 30, 35 million euros on a player like this. But Cruchot, one thing Alan failed to mention, and we'll dovetail into outgoings again. He did mention, okay, well, that would mean Trippier leaving the club. There are some very, very heavy rumors. Certain Pep Guardiola is a big fan of one Tino Livramento.
Look,
and this could pose a predicament in terms of, would his head be turned by Man City and Pep Guardiola? I mean,
the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I mean, he's not signed a new contract with it yet, because he wants his agent and his family and him want to see where we're going to end up in the league and what next season holds. Was it Europa League, Conference League? None of those. Champions League maybe. But I think, honestly, getting to the Champions League in terms of retaining players is something that we don't really talk about too much, because we have a lot of loyal players that are kind of bought into the project. But you can't blame Tino Livramento. He loves it at Newcastle. He works well with Hall. But again, he's no real close affinity with Newcastle or the Northeast area. If Pep Guardiola comes calling and wants to spend whatever, 100 million quid,
you're talking minimum 100 million quid, but will Man City outlay 100 million quid on a right back?
Well, let me ask, is any right back out? Like, when you think about the players that go for 100 million, obviously Isaac and Wirtz most recently, and then you're like Declan Rice, Moise Caicedo, Jack Grealish for some reason at one point. It's rare to see that much spent on a defender. Probably what Van Dijk is still the most expensive, especially in particular in Premier League terms, and he went for about 75, 80 million. Maguire at one point, but it's an interesting one. The evolution of the fullback wingback role and what they add to a team, especially going forward as well as defensively. Could that make Tino Livramento worth 100? I'd struggle with it, but my counter question is, would Newcastle accept 80 million?
We spent 40 to 45 million on him when he had a knee injury. He was knocking on the door of being an England fullback. He's now an England fullback. That doubles his price minimum.
Yeah.
I think as well his versatility also, like he had done it a little bit, but the commentary of, actually, is he better at left back?
Yeah.
Actually shows, are there many better fullbacks that can play both sides out there, Premier League and beyond? And there aren't that many, I would argue, at his age as well, because he's still very young, and we can see what a big player he's been for Newcastle. So
the only downside of him is he's had 2 serious knee injuries already, and he went off with another knee injury last week or the week before.
We don't quite know the extent of that yet, do we?
And that's this is harder to say. Do you remember Dream Team back in the day, and they sold your man even though you were blind? I wouldn't be opposed to Newcastle going, right, he's had 2 already. He nearly had a 3rd one. This is a ticking time bomb. If someone comes in with the 100 million, send him on his way. Do not want to see Tino go, but 2 knee injuries is very, very worrying. The 3rd one potentially be career ending.
Al's breaking my heart here.
Yeah, come here.
He's been doing that for 107 episodes.
He's talking about Tino going now. Jesus Christ.
I mean, look, every player has a price, I think, and especially if the head gets turned. And we have to respect where we are in the food chain when it comes to Man City. You know, if you're Tino Livramento and you're thinking, right, I want to play for England, and he has played for England, but even, you know, based on things currently, he's probably behind Reece James again. He's probably behind Trent if Trent was to get back into the fold, I suppose, as a right back. He's not. I would have argued he was closer a year ago to first choice for England than he is now. If you look at Man City, where they are in the league, you know, they've got Nico O'Reilly playing left back, who's a midfielder, and he could be first choice left back for Man City, or for England, sorry. Even though Lewis Hall is back and playing really, really well for us, but yeah, it would be very hard for Tino and his people to not be open or interested in exploring this. My big thing on this would be about the fee. Would I accept if we doubled our money on him, which is what, 80 million? I probably would. Because there's an awful lot you could do with that money. And at the end of the day, it is a right back. We've just stuck Lewis Miley in there and he looks more than capable. So I like you, Alan. I don't want to see him go either.
No.
But there is, you know, when the money comes into it, I always suspected with Man City, if we got to January and Man City were in with a shout of winning the league, and they're a lot closer now than they were in 6 weeks ago, that they might dive in again. They did it last season. They went and signed Marmoush and your man Kusanov and what's the other chap? Is it Nico Gonzalez, I think? And they went for it, and it didn't work. But they might be tempted to go for it this time. They're only 2 points behind Arsenal now.
I can't see this being a January one. I can't see them coming in for Tino in January.
It's the one area of the pitch I think that they blatantly need to improve. You know,
but with that injury, I can't see it happening. Sure. And if they were to do it, they'd go out and they'd find someone. Where Sacha Bowie? Would they be opposed to bringing him in? Yeah, like
the old transfer merry-go-round.
Yeah, which kind of brings us like Paul brings us on to James Trafford and getting his arse out of Man City before his career falls to pieces, and getting him to Newcastle where he actually should be playing and goal and being our goalkeeper.
70 million and Trafford for Tino.
70 million and Trafford.
Wouldn't say no to that.
Oh no, not here. That's good. That's a good deal.
That would be a very good deal. Unlikely, I think, but you know,
maybe that's what he bought Trafford, to dangle him in front of us.
Again, it's a transfer merry-go-round because, you know, Alan's just suggested, maybe Man City would go in for someone like Sacha Bowie. That would then, you know, potentially sign a player that Newcastle want to replace Tino Livramento with. Hey, Liverpool did that when they signed Ekitike and then struggled to get Isak out of Newcastle. Why? Because they took the replacement that we wanted for him. So football is a big old merry-go-round, domino effect, etc. when it comes to transfers. But you're right. Quickly on the goalkeeper situation, I don't think we'll do anything in January with Pope and Ramsdale in the fold. So I don't know if it's worth. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it. I think the summer will change. What a bad move! What a bad move! And how badly advised was Trafford?
Terrible move.
Terrible move. My God, he was only in the door like a wet week, and then it was like, that was available. All right, okay, I'll just see here then.
Ridiculous.
You asked who Guillaume Restes plays for Toulouse. He is going to be a fantastic goalkeeper, and he's exactly what we need. Young and very, very, very good. And a Football Manager wonderkid.
That's one for the summer. So we'll put a pin in that one then and come back to that in the summer once I've got 2 seasons of Football Manager under my belt, Alan, and I can go and sign him in my Hoffenheim save. Right, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back and we'll start talking about a couple of other positions, in particular forward roles, to see, do we think Newcastle will make any moves in this January transfer window? Don't go anywhere. The Irish Mag Show is proudly sponsored by The Half Volley and FSH Training Limited. The Half Volley provide high-quality, customizable clothing and merchandise catering for all sports teams, businesses, social clubs and events, including, of course, the Irish Mags, with a new range available over on their website, thehalfvolley.com. FSH Training Limited offer a wide variety of training across the fields of fire safety, first aid and manual handling. All of their trainers are frontline emergency service workers with extensive instructing experience, ensuring realistic, professional training. All of their course options and details are available on their website, fshtraining.ie. Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show. We are talking January transfer window. We've already covered a couple of topics looking at midfield, where we're repeatedly linked with a young Dutch midfielder in Kees Schmidt. And where would that leave the likes of Joe Willock and Joe Linton? We've also talked a bit about the fullback situation. Sacha Bowie, the Bayern fullback linked. Where would that leave the likes of Kieran Trippier? would that pave the way for Tino Livramento to go to Man City? Money. And obviously that goalkeeper situation where we don't think there'll be any moves. But a couple more areas I want to talk to you about, lads. Krisho.
Yeah.
There is a question mark for me on the right-hand side of the pitch for Newcastle United. And where we are currently is, I think we have a massive lack of contribution from that side of the field in terms of goal contributions, goals, assists, etc. It's all on Voltamades, and obviously Wissa now that he's back in the fold, or Gordon, really. And right now, Murphy, great, swings in a few crosses. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Barnes has been tested over there. He seems to go a bit anonymous.
Are you going to mention Alanga and how terrible the he was?
Brings me around to Alanga, because this is for me the big question mark here on Anthony Alanga. Now, he has been at the club, obviously, not super long, half a season, but really hasn't looked good. In fact, has looked dreadful, worse, to be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of the most basic things like ball control and short passes and just decision making. We know his game is running into space, breaking at speed, breaking on the counter, but he's had chances to score. He hasn't taken them. We've seen him lose the ball frequently or give the ball away. And there's a lot of question marks. But my biggest question here would be, whether it's January or not, but considering we have January right around the corner, would Newcastle be inclined to make a move in that area of the pitch in the transfer window? Because by doing so, it is an open admission of failure by saying, that 55 million we spent on Anthony Alanga, that's not really worked out. We need to do something about it. That will do nothing for the player's confidence. It will do nothing for the player's value. I'm talking about Alanga. However, is it bigger than that? Because ultimately, when you look around the league, most big teams or high-performing teams have really strong players in that area of the pitch who are goal threats, who are scoring goals, who are contributing assists, who are creating chances. And ultimately, we just don't have that at the moment.
But we want to act like be a big football team, a massive football team, which we are, right? Which we're growing. We're going to need to make ruthless decisions in the business side of the football club. And we're on the pitch, we're going to need to make ruthless decisions. Alanga hasn't worked out. The world and his wife knows it, right? It hasn't worked out, right? That's not to say we want to destroy the guy's confidence. As Al said, we can't sell the guy. We just can't. Because we've only bought him 6 months ago. That's not a good idea. But to bring somebody in to complement him or to assist him or to help him in training, or he can work against or battle against in terms of trying to get a starting position, is something that we desperately need, because Murphy sometimes he can have a good few crosses, we get a goal out of it, fair play Murphy. But a lot of the time he's not doing anything. He's not doing much at all. In fact, through our Irish Mags group chat, Murphy is mentioned a lot, especially when he's playing very poorly. So for an elite football team that we want to be, we absolutely need to bring somebody in on the right-hand side. And Alanga be damned. It's just, this is the way we have to work now. It hasn't worked out. Personally, like I said a couple of podcasts ago, Alanga was an Isak complimentary signing. They really hoped that Alanga and Isak was going to work. And it probably would have worked on the break. We would have destroyed teams, frankly. Before they could even blink their eyes, we would have been 2 up. But it hasn't worked. And the slow pace of Voltamada coming out, slowing it down, passing out, that doesn't really suit where Alanga is. Like we discussed before, he seemed like a Forest. He stood on the halfway line. They kicked the ball over, and he ran after it like a greyhound and scored a goal. So that's not going to work at Newcastle. He needs to put a lot more effort in. He needs to do a lot more sequence of plays, pass and move. Like you'd said, we've got the Man United version of Alanga. So even when he gets the ball, he wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. He doesn't want it anywhere near him. He doesn't even want to be on the pitch, it looks like, half the time. Especially at the James Park, he looks scared out of his mind. So we need to bring somebody in the right-hand side. You guys have mentioned that there's a guy. Is the guy in Marseille, is he a right-handed? Right side.
There's 2 players we're going to talk about, but he's more central. We'll come to him in a minute because he did play against us this season, which also helps because most of us have seen him play at least. I think he played for about 70 minutes in that game. But the player that his name has popped up repeatedly, and sometimes I'm like, well, you can't be linked with a player for 2 years and eventually sign him. But Malik Chow proved that theory wrong because we did eventually sign him after 2 years. But Alan, it is Magnus Akliush of Monaco is the player that is popping up on all of our radars most frequently for this role and position. We talked about him a lot. I've written about him already on the Irish Mag website when we were looking at this position prior to signing Elanga. And for anyone who's not aware, so Magnus Akliouche, again, French, plays for Monaco, has come through the Monaco youth system, is very much a starter, a first choice for them. He's played 15 times in League On this season, 3 goals and 2 assists. Still a very young player. He's 23, I think, and is left-footed. And again, I've just pulled out a little excerpt from another website, Total Football Analysis, who profiled this player as recently as November. And basically, it's what they've said about Akliouche is that he's a player whose game revolves around the half space, high tempo progression, out of possession intensity. He's neither a classical number 10 nor a wide forward. He's more of an interior winger who begins nominally on the right and bends into central spaces to connect play. And there's a full-on kind of a scout report and stats and everything. But I think what we're seeing here is, and they've got some really good graphs, is that he performs above average in almost every metric, and particularly, again, I'll look at FBref, which is a really good kind of a barometer. His pass completion is up in the 90th percentile, progressive passes, does contribute goals and assists. And he's also a hard worker. He's a runner. He has a very high interception stats as well. So you'd like to think Eddie Howe would like that element of his game, because I think one of the things Eddie Howe can't, Eddie Howe will dream about Jacob Murphy for life, because he knows what Murphy gives him defensively and hard work related as well as offensively. So this seems like a player who would be more suitable. And dare I say it, Alan, we probably should have signed him in the first place rather than Elanga.
He's actually the total opposite of Elanga. Elanga is pure pace, get to the byline, put the ball in the box, take a shot, whatever. Where Akliouche is, he's a big, I think he's 6'1" or 2. If you count his afro, he's 6'9", but he's more of a get the ball, slow it down, beat a player with technical dribbling rather than push the ball by him and just burn him for pace. He was also nominated for the Pushkas Award last year for the best goal of the year in all of football for a bicycle kick he scored. It was insane, the goal was. He is just he's a tasty little player, or big player, I should say, but he looks like it would be the perfect complementary player to sign and keep Elanga, because then you've got the best of both worlds. Are you going the just pure pace? It's Elanga. Are you going, we have to break down a low block side? It's Akliouche. He's linked to Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea's. He's not linked to bad sides. So he's a serious player. I would absolutely love for him to come in. I wanted him to come in the first time we were linked to him. I wanted him to come in the second time we were linked to him. It's the third time we're linked to him. I really want him to come in again because he looks like a quality player.
I have a problem here. These players that we've mentioned for the last 40 odd minutes, every single one of them was chased by Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich.
Welcome to being a big side.
Yeah, Jesus.
I think you have to remember as well, like some of this often is agent talk as well. So like agents will leak things to the media to say like, oh, Real Madrid are looking at this player to try and push a move, even if Real Madrid aren't really looking. Yeah. And this has been happening for years. So that it doesn't alarm me that we're on paper competing with those sides.
Yeah.
What annoys me is it's nice being in the conversation. What annoys me is if a player like this does, let's say in January or next summer, end up going to Liverpool, for example, that we've been looking at him for 2 years. Well, why were we looking at him for 2 years? Why were we sitting around, waiting around, looking at him for 2 years to then ultimately watch him go to Liverpool? At least with Ekitike, and again, we don't know the ins and outs, folks, obviously, but again, with Ekitike, we tried when he was very young. We tried before he went to PSG, and we tried again when he was obviously in Germany. So that's a little bit different. So that's where it would annoy me. But does it alarm me if other big name clubs are linked? Not really, because if we're talking about high potential players in Europe, that's going to happen, and that's why we play Football Manager as well.
Who sanctioned Elanga? Do you think?
Well, but I mean, if you were to believe what you read, it's a very much an Eddie Howe signing. Eddie Howe wanted him. We went for Elanga last January as well. So when you think about the constant in terms of like who's been in the picture for that last 12 months, Eddie Howe's been there. Wilson wasn't there. Hopkinson wasn't there. Obviously, Yields was there. Elanga feels like an Eddie Howe signing. I think the point about wanting him to link up with Isak is very valid, and I think you'd wonder what goes on with footballers. But when Elanga's signing for Newcastle, has he any idea that his mate is actually going, By the way,
He
I'm
had
gonna
to have
fuck
talked to
everything
him.
up.
He
You
had
would
to
think
have
so.
talked to him.
You had to, yeah, you had to.
So it's interesting to think about that. You know, was it a case of Elanga signed for Newcastle hoping to play with Isak, and then his mate goes, by the way, I'm going to go and cause absolute havoc here and push transfer, and good luck with your move. You know, do you want to buy my old house off me?
Yeah.
And is that something that's playing on Elanga, and why Elanga is half the player he was? So look, there's lots of moving parts to it. So, but ultimately we're in solutions mode, and I think somebody like Akliush doesn't spell the end for Elanga. It's a different profile, like Alan said. It does create competition. It does give us something we need. And, you know, where does it leave somebody like Jacob Murphy? Again, Jacob Murphy is nearly starting to end up playing as a wing back more so than anything. So I think there's space for this profile in the squad, and it would help us evolve because, as that little scout report said, he does like to tuck in. He also offers an option in the middle of the park to connect things where we've seen huge gaps between the likes of Bruno and Sandro and then Nick Voltemade. We've got all this space in that number 10 position. Right, finally, let's take that to segue into a question I want to finish on, lads, when it comes to transfers. We talk about repeat transfer links, and let's call him our third choice striker, who we've not seen for a while, Will Osula, has been repeatedly linked with a move away. And again, I think it's Frankfurt is it Frankfurt or Stuttgart or both?
Yeah, Frankfurt,
have been linked with Osula, and again in this particular window as well. So my question here, lads, he has been out injured, and I think there's a widespread belief that he's not really good enough anyway. If we were to lose Wissa or Voltemade, do we want to see Osula coming in? Do we believe he's the guy? Maybe not. Krisho, do you see a world where Newcastle might look to bring in a third, well, let's call it a third striker after Wissa and Voltemade?
If Osula goes out, I think it would be a sale if he did go out. I thought maybe it might be a loan to buy or something. Maybe it will be a loan to buy. But I think if it's a sale and we get 20 million or 25 plus 5 or whatever it is, and it's very early within the transfer window, like it's done within the first week of the transfer window, yes, I do believe that we will go and get another striker, like a straight up striker. Wish is not a straight up striker. He played on the wing for Brentford. He played in the middle for Brentford, yeah, but he's not really a striker. He's not really a number 9. I love the fact that he got given the number 9, but he's not really a striker. He's not really an Andy Cole or an Al Shearer. We need a striker. And Voltemade is not that guy either. So if Osula does get sold, if it's a loan to buy, I don't believe we'll bring somebody in. But if it's a sale and it's done within the first, say, 7, 8, 9 days of the transfer window, I do believe, yes, in the last week of the transfer window, we will bring in a striker. I don't know who, because every striker on the planet costs a fortune. So do we have that kind of money to knock about in January?
We do, yeah. We have money. We just sold the player for 130 million quid.
So we could have. The
question is, do they spend it? Would they spend it in that area of the pitch for?
They should.
In January, though.
That's the big question. In January, yeah.
We need somebody in the box. We need somebody in the box, lads. We need somebody in the box. There's not enough happening. There's so many crosses going in. We've seen it the last couple of games, and nobody on the end of them. There's nobody, even when it gets knocked out by the opposition's defense. There's nobody waiting outside in the midfield. Everyone's just standing around looking at each other. How many times did Man Red break out from a corner or from a cross where there was nobody there in the midfield and just ran down the? We need a striker.
Do you remember that time we all laughed when the suggestion of Dominic Calvert-Lewin was brought to the table? Look at him.
I know, yeah. Look at him now.
7 games in a row.
Right.
Who would have thought that, playing for Leeds? Anyway, look, we can't be looking back.
Bring Longstaff
I don't know. Longstaff. I don't know if we'd be inclined to spend that money in that area of the pitch. Like there are names out there. I mean, there's a guy in Hoffenheim who's Aslani, I've mentioned him before, I think, who's banging in goals at the moment in the Bundesliga, and they're a team that's kind of on the up. But again, what kind of transfer fee are you talking? Where is he likely to end up going somewhere to not be first choice? So it is a tough position to fill, let's say. I think you'd need to look in slightly more obscure areas, or you're looking for younger players, or do you just go and see Karim Konate, what, Red Bull Leipzig?
Salzburg, isn't it?
Salzburg, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the Red Bull teams. He's 20, and it just looks like he was built to score goals.
That's a more reasonable one. Or do they just go and see what Ivan Toney is up to? But anyway, time will tell, I think, on that one.
Nicholas Jackson.
Nicholas Jackson. He's
on loan at Bayern,
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a bit busy. And again, you're talking money and wages that are phenomenal too. So be interesting to see. Chrisio mentioned a player earlier, Daryl Bacola, who's at Marseille. He started for Marseille in the Champions League against Newcastle. Again, very young, just turned 18 at the end of November. But by all accounts, looks an exciting player. Does he fit into our current system? For me, absolutely not. He looks like much more of a kind of an attacking midfielder. But again, he's one of those players that wants to play probably ahead of the ball than behind it, and that would actually create tactical differential, in my opinion. But does he fit into Eddie Howe, and is he what we need right now? Probably not. But listeners, let us know what you think. I want to finish transfers on one question for the lads and yourselves as well. So get your comments in on YouTube and Spotify. One signing you'd love to see, Alan. Doesn't have to be any of the players we mentioned. I'm sure you might say like Haaland or Mbappe or Saka, but within reason.
I'm going to throw a curve on it.
Prioritize a signing. Who would you really ultimately love to see come in?
I'd love that Karl Leinhardt lad from Bayern, but it's not going to happen. So I'm going to take his midfield partner of Alexander Pavlovich, who's a 21-year-old. He's a Claude Makelele regen. He just loves hammering into tackles, and he would allow Bruno and Tonali to push forward and do what they want to do, which is actually play football and not be donkey work players. So Pavlovich would be my signing.
Wow. Chrisio, anyone for you? You did mention Morgan Gibbs-White at one point.
I did, yeah. I mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White, and then I'm just going to throw in, and I know, again, we're going down the Bayern route, bring in Harry Kane as an extravagant, outlandish, amazing signing on loan initially, and he's going to try and battle Haaland on the Shearer stats, and Shearer can convince him, and it'll be good. He just wants to get back home from Germany. That's the kind of guy that I'd like to be waiting in the box to score goals for Harry Kane. Hell yeah!
It would be fun, as unlikely as I think it would be. God, that would be it would be something we could do with, all right. Yeah. But I just think between everything and the fact that why would they leave Bayern and why would they let him go and money and everything, I'd struggle with that. For me, I was thinking about this. I mean, I love to look at Magnus Eklush, but I'm beating the drum on him now like I used to about Johan Bakayoko, and look where that got us. If I was to say, a player that I'd love to see us go for, I mean, I feel like there's an opportunity for a club to get Ethan Nwaneri out of Arsenal, even on loan. Because he's he plays on the right, loves to tuck in on the left. He's still crazy young. They may never let him go, but he's behind Saka and he's behind Madueke technically on that side. So if he needs football, we can give it to him. And he, doesn't necessarily expect to start, let's say, but God, I think if we got him in, someone like him in, he could blow things up. If I'm to go more realistic, rather than this isn't a dream signing for me, but if I was to think someone that we might actually go for, cheeky loan for Kobbie Mainoo might not be the worst thing in the world.
I'd love that because it annoys so many Man United football fans.
Even better, rattle them.
Has he really been that good in the last season?
No, he hasn't, and that's the point. I think there's an opportunity to not have to pay a whole lot. It's solving a problem for everyone involved. As long as we can just leave his brother going around with his gammy free Kobbie Mainoo t-shirt.
That's lame.
But lame. I think Mainoo needs the move. If he has any notions of getting back in England set up, he doesn't seem to fit in the system. Man United are paying him to do nothing effectively. Injuries now to Bruno and maybe Casemiro might create question marks, but I just feel there's an opportunity for a club to get this guy out, whether it's Newcastle or not, I don't know. But if we need a midfielder and we don't want to spend a lot, there's an opportunity to just go and say, right, we'll give him to us for 6 months. We'll try and give him some game time, and he might be able to change things. But it doesn't drastically change how we play compared to some of the other signings.
Have Barcelona's finances changed now, or could we maybe have a cheeky bid at Ferran Torres?
You could have a bid for Ferran Torres. He doesn't start week in, week out, but Barcelona's finances change by the week because they just pull levers and fucking sell seats to Saudi Arabia and all this jazz. They've sold the TV rights for the next 20 years for $1 billion or something like that. They just keep selling stuff that they shouldn't be selling. That house all levers come crumbling.
It's ridiculous. Like I was listening to a podcast this morning, The Truth, with Sam Tighe and Dougie Critchley, and they were talking about Marc-Andre ter Stegen, the German goalkeeper. So like in the summer, he had a bit of a back injury issue, but he's basically fallen on the pecking order. They signed a new player, They signed the guy from Espanyol, Juan Garcia. He's class.
Yeah.
And basically, in order to get him in along with Rashford, they kind of had to go through this loophole of dropping demoting Ter Stegen in terms of captaincy, because he was captain, signing some kind of declaration to say he's injured, therefore allowing Barcelona to like force a move based on necessity. And then they gave him back the captaincy when he's come back from injury, but he's third choice now effectively because Szczesny's in there as well. It's a fucking mess, but like they're probably paying him 200 grand or whatever the hell they're paying him. So they would need to probably offload him before they could sign anyone. But is it an opportunity to test him for somebody like Ferran Torres or even Rafinha? Maybe.
Oh, Rafinha. Wow.
But again, you're talking considerable money, especially in January. But I wouldn't be against any of those guys coming in. I'm a big Rafinha advocate as well. Right. Listeners, let us know your thoughts on any of those transfer targets or who you'd love to see Newcastle bring in. Or player sales as well. We've touched on Joe Willock. We unfortunately had to talk about Livramento. We've mentioned Joe Linton. Hard to see anybody else really leaving the club, but only time will tell. Before we wrap up this week's episode, Alan Williamson, as we record this, it is the day and the night before Burnley. Yes. We will be having a massive meetup in the Bleecker Street Bar in Dublin. Tell us more.
So tomorrow is our Christmas party, even though it's after Christmas. That's all my fault because I went on my holidays. Poorly timed holiday and all that jazz. So
I am the Irish Mags.
Yeah, exactly. There was questions asked. Why was it? And I was like, because I have the quiz in my phone and none of you are allowed to have it other than me. So yeah, our Christmas party is tomorrow night. So the game kicks off at 7:30. Yeah, 7:30. So I will be in there from 5:30 getting set up. Things will kick off from about 6-ish. We're going to have a quiz. We're going to have a raffle. We're going to have all that usual crack. We're going to have a Christmas jumper competition. Come in, bit of chaos, plenty of prizes, plenty of things to be won, plenty of things to do, plenty of drink to be drank. Come in, have a bit of crack. I might even try wrangle bringing the baby in for the first time. So you could see a baby in there. Like, who doesn't want that? Should be a bit of crack. If you're anywhere in and around Bleecker Street, come in. Christmas party is always fantastic. And just before I wrap up, I just want to show off our new gear. So this is the MFC gear that we've been organising all year.
Oh, bring it up to the camera. Bring it up to the camera. It looks tasty, to be fair.
Santi Claus brought me this. It is really, really good quality gear. It's a replacement for the old Forza gear, which Chris is still rocking, but this is our new gear. It's really, really,
it looks
really
lovely.
Nice. We're very, very happy with it. The next window for orders will be opening towards the end of January for an in and around the end of February, March delivery. So I want to explain to people with the gear. When you order it, that doesn't matter. You have to wait for the order window to close and then the delivery window starts. So a couple of people got on to me saying, I ordered 8 weeks ago and it's still not here. And I had to go, because you ordered day one of the orders. When
it's
was
back
a 3-week
production,
order.
right?
Yeah.
They take all the orders and then it's produced together.
That's exactly what it is. We don't have the numbers to just have a shop on the go all year round, so we can only do it in batch orders. So the gear quality is really, really good. I got a jersey, pair of tracksuit bottoms, and a jumper for €99. That is insane value. So really, really happy with the gear. Really do. If you want some of our gear, MFC Sports, we'll be doing the links everywhere. We also have the half volley with a couple of new lines coming out in the next couple of weeks as well. So keep an eye on those. So get the gear sold.
Love it. And we'll have links for all that in the description. And as we said, once the window is open, we'll be pushing that across all the WhatsApp groups, socials, and on the website as well. So keep an eye out for those, folks, to get that. I need some new gear myself, actually, lads. I think I'll buy myself a little post-Christmas present to treat myself. Why not?
Yeah, treat yourself.
I spent all my money on whiskey and beer this Christmas, so the 2026 fund can go towards Irish Mags and gear. As we said, the Bleecker Street Bar is a place to be for Burnley if you are not travelling for the game. It is an away game. We have won the last 5 on the bounce against Burnley.
Don't say that.
Turf Moor, happy place.
I've decided as a test, we're not even going to do predictions. This is an away game. We've only won one away game this season in the league against Everton.
We're going to win.
This has to be 2. Big performance needed. It'll be interesting to see what happens. That game is 7:30 kickoff.
7:30. Sky Sports tennis.
Yeah.
channel
Sky
we're
Sports
on.
Tennis.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
I don't understand it myself, but Sky Sports Tennis, yeah.
Game, set, match, juice, advantage. Hey. Right. That brings this week's episode to a close. A big thank you for everyone for tuning in, listening, get your comments in on transfers and all of that. Massive thank you to Alan and Krisho for joining me as well. We'll be back next week for more. I think we'll be back next week for more Irish Magnus. So until then, fingers crossed for Burnley. How are the lads? Slán, go fall. We'll see you all very soon.
Slán a bhaile.
Good luck.